And today I want to talk about equanimity. I guess if you're not familiar with the term, the fastest way I can describe it is kind of like being even keeled or even minded. And for a long time, that was pretty much how I lived my life. But recently, I've been not very high on the equanimity scale. Recently, I've been actually probably more emotional than I've been in a long time. Obviously, if you've been paying attention to what I've been writing, what I've been posting, I've been doing a lot of grief work. Hi, Linda. Been doing a lot of grief work in a lot of areas of my life. And I don't know if it's seasonal because I'm getting older. I'm 50 now. So I don't know if it's that or just circumstantial. Circumstantial, I've had several deaths in close succession in my life. And also, I've been really struggling with the former expression of my Christian experience, which was the evangelical worldview, which I've actually been away from for 25 years, but it's brought up a lot of grief recently in the past few years. One, because of the death of a friend, Carlton Pearson, who was treated very poorly by the evangelical system. And his death actually hit me pretty hard, but I didn't let it hit me the way I've let the most recent ones hit me. Um, but it did really kind of anger me, I would say. I really got angry after his death because of the way that people cheered his death because he had expanded his worldview to believe in universal reconciliation, which is like the belief that he was still, on the Christian spectrum, but was like a universalist in the sense that he thought that when Christ died, then it redeemed all of humanity forever and always, and that all beings were going to continue on. And he was, looking into a lot of other things before he passed, but that really that was his journey. But a lot of people were really angry about that, declared him a heretic. They treated him terribly, and when he died, they made all kinds of terrible videos. And I was just like, really hurt, and he was hurt because the same people that rejected him embraced Donald Trump, and all he did was say, all Carlton said was like, God loves everybody, and those people got angry and hateful towards him, and we're just like, what? God loves everybody. No, God doesn't. And they went and lost their minds. And then, and at first, I guess I didn't let it hit me as hard as it could have because I used to say to him, "Hey, man, what did you expect? Like, what you know these people, so why are you getting hurt that they're being how they're being when you already know that that's how they are?" So I kind of was just like, "It's to be expected," and the fact that he spent so much time still trying to convince folks who had demonstrated their hate towards him, that he's spent so much time trying to convince them of a better way of seeing the world or a more loving way of seeing the world. I thought it was like a waste of his time. And but then when he died, I like felt so sorry for him that he had put in so much effort like that and the grief that he was dealing with, that I guess I started feeling some secondary grief, but it was really anger. Um, and then I tried to check it and tried to balance myself out and get back to this like kind of equanimity that I had lived in for such a long time. Like I used to be so in this space that one calls equanimity that people used to be convinced I was a Buddhist or a secret Buddhist. But it was really life circumstances. It was really just paying attention to my life that had me holding that position. And I'll maybe detail some of that to you all in a minute. But I went from anger and everything, and just kind of was trying to be balanced. So I started working in this field of bridging divides, bringing people together across differences. And because I grew up conservative and Republican evangelical, I understood the highest intentions of some of those folks. And then having ended up in progressive spaces through just different circumstances, I also thought I understood some elements of where they were coming from. And I thought that'd be a good person to work in that gap, and not be on either extreme. And so I could just kind of navigate it. I wasn't neutral, which sometimes people think equanimity is neutral. And I wasn't neutral, but I wasn't, I was respecting that everybody was on a journey. But then I started seeing some things that were very disturbing in terms of power dynamics in the ways that people clung to power, and how some people who would advocate for bridging when they thought that power is going to be on their side, whatever that means, they would then switch up. And so I realized, like, well, this field needs some work. And also, from a narrative perspective, a lot of people don't understand that, like, you can't try to go somewhere with someone if they have a different story, because a lot of us, like, just to say, like, the folks that you've probably seen on the news, they believe that, with all this stuff that's happening in the Middle East, that they're going to bring about the return of Jesus, right? That's what they believe. So, like, if you're a person that's saying, I want to create a world where there's, like, everyone can have like a basic income, or everyone can be loved for who they are, everyone can, like, kind of live and let live, and you're trying to bridge with a person that says, no, we only want our side to win, we don't give a crap about anybody else, and we want Jesus to come back and get revenge on his on his enemies and all this stuff, like, you're not in the same book, you're not on the same page, it's not the same story. So any ideas that you're going to be able to bridge with folks like that is very silly. And so I try to help some people understand that you can't bridge with everybody, because some people, regardless on left or right, you can't bridge with everybody because some people's existence is fundamentally opposed to other people's existence. So you can't bridge in that area. But some people think being a good person is just kind of like going along and getting along with everybody. And there's mostly white people that think that way, like white Bridger people. They'll just be like, well, because they have, like, family members that they don't want to let go of that are also horrible people. And or you get, like, certain people of color who just want to be accepted by white people so bad that they just want to, I don't even know how to describe those folks, but they just are willing to kind of acquiesce to a lot of harmful things just for the sake of feeling accepted by some of those more extreme white people. And I don't broker in that stuff. So I try to work with reasonable people, right? So I came to the conclusion that I need to take a break from that kind of work, because the conversations that people were having were so, um, I can't even think of a word right now because I just woke up, but they're so, like, smushy that it was just no substance there. So I kind of stepped away from that for a little bit so I could reflect on where I could actually be of value to people and to the conversations that I think need to be had. So I did the best I could do in that space, and then I was really unclear on what was next, in terms of, the work I would do. And I've, done some workshops and some trainings and things like that, but I really was trying to get to a place where I could just stay clear headed, and that's very challenging when you're in chaos. It's like trying to make a house of cards while there's an earthquake happening. And it's like, you're like, I know I can make this house of cards if only the earth would stand still. But the earth just is not standing still. And so things keep collapsing. And it's like, what's the point of continuing to try to build a house of cards on such a unstable and shaky foundation? And what I've gotten to is that I have to forget about the external world and get back to cultivating inner stillness and inner quiet and inner calm and inner stability and inner peace. And then from that place, I can look at the things that are happening around me from a place of equanimity. And equanimity still not meaning neutral, but to just look at it from an even mind, a even keeled mind, to be able to just bear witness and then take the actions that I can take in the moments that I'm in. So, mindful of that, and mindful of the world that we're in right now, and the grief that I've been experiencing, and just really having to deal with it, because there's no point in me fighting the grief. It's just here. I mean, I've lost people that I'm really, really close to, that know me most of my life, who are part of my story, and now they're gone. And so I'm reimagining my story through the lens of their absence, and also reflecting on the way I knew myself through them, because a lot of times we don't think about this, but a lot of the ways that we know ourselves are through relationships with other people. And so sometimes we reflect ourselves back to ourselves. Like I said in one of my last conversation with my brother, I told him that I was going to come out as being more weird than I already am. And he said, "You're not weird, you're just you." And like, for whatever reasons, that just has brought up a lot of feelings for me. So at any rate, long story long, um, this I'm making a connection here. So I've been trying to look at the world as kind of like it's communicating to me and guiding me and telling me how to live from this place of equanimity, how to get back to this place of equanimity through my experiences. And so this experience I had recently was I was supposed to meet my family here in Florida before we went to Puerto Rico, and it seemed like everything was going to just kind of fall into place because my wife um, formerly worked for an airline and is still on furlough, so we had standby flights, and there was two routes that were like completely just like so many seats, and we were like, wow, this is awesome. So we thought we were going to be able to go from Denver to Florida, and from Florida to Puerto Rico. We were going to hang out there. We had points that we were going to use for our hotels, so the hotels were going to be free, the flights were going to be free, and we just had to pay for food. So we were like, yes, this is awesome. This is going to be so easy. And we were pretty excited about it. So my family came out to Florida where her parents are. I had to work on Sunday. And then after that, I was going to meet them down here. Everything was going well. And then next thing you know, Monday morning, first my flight to Florida gets canceled. And then flights to Puerto Rico get canceled. And everything starts falling apart. So then I'm trying to hop on another flight and decide, okay, I had to stay at the airport. I was there for about, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours. And I'm just sitting around, and I decided to just not make meaning of it and just take it as the experience that I'm having. And I'll just work on a few things. So I was doing some writing and stuff while I was hanging out there and just figured that's just the place I am, right? And then at some point, I was writing about my brother, and I started feeling emotions and feelings and stuff like that, and just kind of letting myself be washed over with grief, and also just some of the crap that was going on in the world right now. So I was just feeling all that, and I'm writing about it. And I looked over at this lady next to me, and I noticed she was putting on Carmex. Now that would be insignificant in many cases, except for my brother loved the crap out of Carmex. My brother loved Carmex so much that they put Carmex in his casket. He was buried with Carmex, like no joke. So I look over, I see this lady with the Carmex, and I said, "Hey, ma'am, I'm sorry for saying something to you out of nowhere, but is that Carmex you have?" And she goes, "Oh yeah." And so I told her, I said, "Well, sounds kind of strange, but my brother loved Carmex, and he died recently, and we buried him with Carmex." I'm just telling this lady this random story, and then part of me is saying, "Why am I telling this lady this?" But I told her. At any rate, so I tell her this story, and then she goes, "Well, yeah, I love Carmex. My brother loved Carmex too." And I noticed she said loved, and then she goes, "But he also died." So now I'm talking to this lady. Both of our brothers have died recently, around the same time. She just had both of our brothers had funerals really close to each other, and I'm like, "Wow, this is amazing." So I'm like, "Okay, thank you, universe, for this experience." Right? Well, this is the second time this happened, by the way, not with Carmex, but the second time I talked to somebody. So it happened their brother died. So I'm talking to this woman. Then she says, "Well, back in Georgia." I go, "Georgia?" And she said, "Yeah, that's where my brother was living." Well, guess what, y'all? That's where my brother was living. So we're just like, blah, blah, blah. And now we're talking about Carmex, both of our brothers passing, both of them living in Georgia, and all this other stuff. And we both talked about about grief. And this woman, I guess, was a businesswoman of some type, and she was saying how she normally just pushes through things, and she's been even doing that with her brother. And I was telling her I usually push through things, but with my brother I decided not to push through things and to let myself just feel the grief, because I felt like his life deserved me feeling the pain of his loss instead of just pushing through it like I might have pushed through other stuff. So she and I had that conversation. She was like, "Yeah, I probably need to just take the time to grieve too." And so I'm being grateful that we've been brought together this way. Then she starts talking about the Eagles, which, what in the world if her brother wasn't a crazy Eagles fan and so was my brother? And I was like, what? And I never understood why my brother was an Eagles fan, because we're from Virginia, and then he moved to Atlanta. But for some reason, this boy was a serious Eagles fan, and her brother was, because they were really originally from Philadelphia. So we had this great experience. We talked. I was grateful that things played out the way they did, And then I ended up getting on a flight to New York and thinking I was going to go from New York to Fort Lauderdale. But because of some kind of wind and turbulence, they said we're going to take the long route. We missed the stinking oh yeah, go birds, says Drew. So then I missed my flight to Fort Lauderdale when I get to New York by like 30 minutes because they took a longer route to get to the airport. So then I'm like, okay, now what am I gonna do? It's late. It's not that many routes I can get. So then I take a flight to Jacksonville because at 7 a.m. that morning there's a flight to Fort Lauderdale from Jackson. So I said, okay, I do that. And now the whole time I'm still trying to do everything with equanimity. And I met a couple people along the way that were waiting for standby and stuff. And they're like, man, you're so calm. You're so relaxed. How long you been in the airport? I'm like, oh, a day and a half. Because by this time it's like Tuesday. I'm still haven't gotten a flight. And then after I get to New York and get to Jacksonville, right? So then I'm just chilling, being in equanimity, but it's chaos all around me. So then after that, I uh I sleep at the airport. They kick me out because they said I can't stay in this part of the airport in Jacksonville. So they kick me out. I wake up, end up going to getting back in. What happens? Jacksonville to freaking Fort Lauderdale cancel. So I'm like, oh my God, now I'm stuck in Jacksonville. So now I'm like, what do? I'm trying to catch a flight back to New York to try to get another flight back to Florida or to go home or whatever the heck I'm going to do. And the whole time I'm like, all right, I'm just going to have equanimity. And I'm laughing and just kind of like accepting it as being what it is. Then I talked to this guy who's waiting for the flight, and we're talking about whether we should rent a car and all this other stuff. And I'm like, I'm about to rent a car with this random dude to drive to Fort Lauderdale. But he decides he's going to go back to New York. And I decide I'm going to catch a Greyhound bus. Now, I haven't been on a Greyhound bus in like 30 years. And I'm going to take this. It's a 4-hour drive, but by Greyhound, it's 9 hours and 15 minutes. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I'm gonna do. Blah blah blah. Speed up. I end up at the Greyhound bus, greeted with the smell of urine because that place was stinking, and it looked like devastated. But I say, this is where I am. I get on this bus, and I end up sitting next to this lady named Renee, and she's awesome. And we have a little bit of a conversation. But here's something about Renee that you don't know, and I'm talking about the name Renee. The name Renee actually means born again. And I know that because I looked it up when Renee Good was killed in Minneapolis. And so when the lady says her name's Renee, I go, oh, born again. So I take it as a sign. And she and I have a pretty good conversation about a few things. But most of the time we keep to ourselves, and we're on this journey. And on this journey, I had so many crazy bus experiences. I'm not going to go into them in detail. But one of them, this lady asked, for some reason, I got this face where people think, I guess they look at my face. Even my name is Pedro, but they look at my face and think like, this dude speaks Spanish. So this lady just looks at me and starts, you speak Spanish? And I speak it enough that I understood what a couple people were saying. And this one lady had asked somebody to watch her kid while she gets off the bus. And but the lady spoke Spanish, didn't understand what she said. So I was like, oh, she wants you to watch her kid, but I'll just do it. So I ended up watching this random lady's kid while she gets off the bus. That I think they go to the bathroom or get a snack or something like that. And turns out she went to go smoke weed. So she's out there smoking weed. The baby wakes up like, "Who the heck are you?" And so and then another lady, Renee, ends up watching the lady's kid while I go and get the lady and tell her like, your kid wants you. That's a little funny thing. Then we're driving some more. The route's taking a little bit of time. It's a lot of little comical incidents that happen because it's a bus. One lady was talking on speaker. The Latino lady was talking on speaker real loud, and they were telling her be quiet, but she didn't understand what they were saying. So then I had to tell her, "Su llamada demasiado alta." It was like, your call is too loud, and then she's like, "Oh, sorry." So then it's like, that's actually a trip, and everybody's like, that was funny. But then the craziest thing happens is we're at one stop. We're driving to about to turn at a red light, and next thing you hear, bap, 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 and it's cops beating on the side of the bus. And I was like, what in the world is happening now? So the cops are beating on the side of the bus, and they go, Calvin, are you on this bus? If you are, get off the bus, Calvin. And they call this dude Calvin, and he looks sad, and he gets off the bus and takes his stuff. Well, meanwhile, this woman that I talked to was from Honduras. She's like, and she's looking like she's about to have an anxiety attack because I think she thought it was immigration. So she's looking scared. And then they take Calvin, and that's it. And she looks calm, and then I'm like, "Todo bien?" She's like, "Yeah, yeah, bien, bien." And then and and everybody's shocked, right? And then the bus driver goes, "Well, I don't know what Calvin did, but it wouldn't be a South Florida trip without drama." And then everybody's laughing, and I'm just like sitting there like trying to stay in equanimity. But I also felt sad as I saw Calvin getting taken away, and the woman looking like she's terrified about possibly La Migra. And it's just like a whole thing, and this whole time I'm trying to stay in equanimity witnessing this, and I'm just like, this is chaos. And then meanwhile, I'm looking at the news, seeing that Pete Hegseth spent $93 billion on steak, lobster, a piano, and a bunch of murder weapons in 1 month. So then I'm just like, look at this world, and I'm still trying to look at it from a place of equanimity and looking at this journey, trying to figure out what am I supposed to learn from this journey that I'm on. There's now almost Wednesday. I left Monday morning, and it's late on Wednesday, late Tuesday night. But I finally meet up with my family, and it's just wild. And I'm trying to watch the whole thing. I'm trying to meditate, and we realize we're not going to be able to make it to Puerto Rico, so it's going to be like a trip with in-laws and stuff. And it's just wild. And so I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm trying to be a witness, and then I get to this one state of consciousness where I'm just like, okay, this is the world. This is like the world doesn't need me to be going cuckoo over everything that's happening. And the gift that I can give the world is my equanimity. And I'm going to be in this place. And I start feeling light and kind of happy. And I'm just like, I can do this. I'm floating. And I'm like actually sleeping on a boat because there wasn't any room in the house. So, so I'm sleeping on this boat, and I jump off the dock, and I'm thinking these thoughts in my mind. And if you can't say it now, but I'm sitting here meditating, and I'm feeling all like I'm gonna stay in equanimity. I jump up on the dock and hit my face on a pole. It jams me in the eye, and it's bleeding right underneath my eyelid. You can't see it now, but all this is crusty. I get busted in the eye by a pole. My eye's bleeding, and I just had to go, "Oh well." I was like, "Oh well, what are you gonna do?" Now my eyes bleeding. I'm meditating on what that means, and I'm keeping it together for the most part. But really, I'm like, I don't know if I really have it together. I'm doing my best to keep it together. And then finally, I'm like, okay, everything's happening for a reason. I'm gonna be in equanimity. I'm just gonna stay in peace. The world's in chaos. My own experience is chaos, but I'm staying still. And I was doing I thought pretty well until I started getting like a massive headache from, I don't know if it's from getting hit in the eye or whatever. My eye was like puffy. It came down like dramatically. It's pretty cool. It's split still here and here, but anyway. So I'm just like chilling, trying to stay in equanimity. And then I'm studying the Enneagram, which is about core motivations. This is all over the place because life is chaos. So I'm in this group, and I have to volunteer to talk about my type, which is the type 8, which is the challenger and the protector, which just brings up so much stuff. And I'm on this call, and I got a massive migraine, but I'm trying to be there for my friends and be supportive and answer questions and stuff. And they're asking about the core inner knowing of the type 8, which is innocence. And they're asking me like, how do I connect to my innocence and all this other stuff like that. And that brings up my mom having dementia, which I'm appreciate anyone who hangs out for this. So then I'm like, so that brings up some more grief. And on the drive to the airport, started off with, I was talking to my mom, who doesn't know who I am, by the way. So I'm in conversation with her, and I'm just telling her stuff because it still sounds like her voice, and I feel like a little kid. So I'm just like trying to, touch with some childhood stuff. So I'm talking to my mom, and I'm talking to her. She doesn't know who I am, but I tell her son died, and then she says something very strange because I don't know if she knows him. I doubt she knows him either. And she, I don't think she knew. My brother tried to tell her she died. My other brother, and he died, and she just didn't get it. But I tell her, he passed away or whatever, and then she goes, "He warned me he was gonna do that," and I don't know what she meant by that, but it was perfect timing that she said it, and I was just like, "What do you mean?" And then but she just was like, that was just where we had to leave it there. And then I started telling her some more stuff. I'm just telling her just random stuff that's happening in my life, and knowing she probably doesn't understand. And then I said, "What do you think about that, Mom?" And she goes, "I don't know. I just take it to the synagogue," because my mom converted to Judaism like 25 years ago or something. So then, and I'm like, "What?" But last time I talked to her about Judaism, she forgot she was Jewish, and or she forgot Jesus too. She didn't have any religion anymore. She didn't even know who I was talking about, but she just said, "I take it to the synagogue," and I thought that was interesting too because it also was pretty good timing. But the thing that really tripped me out was my mom and I have always had a very interesting relationship. Like she never really let me be a child. She couldn't help it because she was going through her own stuff, I guess. But she never really let me be a child. And she had a hard time. She didn't really show me much affection. And even when I asked her for hugs when I was a kid, she told me I didn't need hugs. And she just needed me to be strong all the time. So I carried that for a long time. And she also had a hard time telling me she loved me. And with her dementia and all this other stuff, a lot of times, even with dementia, sometimes I'll talk to her on the phone on speaker and I'll tell her I love her and she won't say anything. And then she'll say, "Oh, yeah." But she'll say, "I love you" to my daughter. So I think she has a hard time saying, "I love you" to men or something. I'm not really sure. But for some reason, I said, "Mom, I know you don't know who I am, but I love you." And then she said, "Well, I love you too." And I ain't gonna lie, I started crying. And I was just like, "Yo, this whole thing's a mess." So I'm going back to this type A Enneagram thing. So they asked me how am I, connecting with my innocence, and I said by talking to my mom with dementia, who doesn't know me, but she's like a little child, and I just talk to her sometimes, just telling her stuff, just whatever. And I connected my innocence through my mom, who's basically innocent because of dementia, and through my 8-year-old daughter, who I've been hanging out on this boat with for the past 4 days, and I just started bawling, man. I was bawling, and this is a group of all black women, and I could not keep my S together. I was crying, snotting, and whatever, and they were just like, "Whoa, man!" And they were caring for me though. They were just like, "Yo, you know, we know they know my type because they know the situation as being a black man in America, but they also know my type as an Enneagram type 8 that goes to anger, withdrawals under stress, and all these other things like that. So they know this very deeply. So they know the fact that I wasn't withdrawn, that I was bawling out of control, crying, that's like something that's welling up inside of me. And what I said to some people recently is I feel like I'm getting baptized from the inside out, man. Like I don't want to cry as much as I've been crying, but I also can tell that it needs to happen. And so I'm just allowing it to happen and allowing even the equanimity to be a part of how I witness my own like breakdown, um, like the grief and the stuff like that. Cause like I'm feeling it, I'm going through it, it's getting me, but I'm not judging myself for it. I'm just witnessing it even when it's me. And so I guess if there's any meaning to this long thing that I'm telling y'all, is the equanimity in the age of chaos, getting to the place of stillness and all those things, also includes the way that we witness ourselves. So it's not just about witnessing the world in a certain way. It's not about being neutral. It's about being like extremely present for what is happening, whatever that might look like, and for not trying to be in control, not trying to control things. And that's another place that I find myself, is just kind of just being present with what is, being present. I mean, the world's a mess right now. And I think sometimes being present with the mess is like the responsible thing to do, is to be sad and to grieve and all these other things, and to do it in a non-judgmental way for oneself and even for institutions and other things that are falling apart. So I guess that's another thing that I'm trying to get to. And then when I call it a zero's journey, I don't mean like I'm a loser, even though sometimes I feel like one right now. But it's not about being a loser or anything like that. It's about getting to the place of the center, not on the positive or the negative. And that was one of the things the reason why I had equanimity for so long was actually connected to my mom, because I learned not to take compliments or um, criticism in any personally. So like somebody can tell me something great about me, I wouldn't take it personally. They take a criticism about me, I don't take it personally. And that was because my mom, no offense to her, sometimes I used to tell my mom, maybe she tell myself that maybe my mom was like a spiritual master that was like doing spiritual kung fu with me. Instead of, I might have been lying to myself, but I used to tell myself that because I didn't understand why my mom was the way she was toward me sometimes. But she would like never let me, like, I'll tell you like this. One time my brother made some bad grades. Like his report card was terrible. And my mom was like mad about it, but she didn't like take it as bad as she could have taken it. But she really was pissed about it. And then she looked at me and said, "How you gonna let your brother make these bad grades?" And I was like, "What? I'm not this dude's daddy." And she said, "You gonna?" And she said, "What'd you get on your report card?" I said, "All A's and a B." And she said, "Oh, so you gonna sit here and make honor roll in your brother's face and not help this dude do better?" And I was like, "What the heck?" And then she said, "Whoop de doo, MF." She said, "Whoop de doo, MF," about me make honor roll. And she said, "You always make honor roll." That's what she said first. She said, "What?" She said, "What'd you get?" I said, "Honor roll." Then she said, "All A's and a B." Then she said, "Whoop de doo, MF. You always make honor roll. You gonna sit here and make honor roll in your brother's face and not help him?" That's terrible. But anyway, it's funny now, but it was terrible back then. And so I was like, yo, I can't care one way or the other if I get compliments, because other people are like, "Oh, you're doing so well," but it made me think because my mom ain't care if I did well. But then I hear my mom brag to other people that I made honor roll. They said, "Oh, your mom was bragging that you made honor roll." I said, "What? She ain't bragging to me that I made honor roll." And so I learned to not care one way or the other. And I've had a lot. I'm not going to go into it right now. I got another dump I'll do later about that stuff. But all these experiences I had made me try to get as present as possible, because I was always living in chaos, and to be almost like what I'm calling equanimity and just witness things. And I cultivated that for years and years and years, um, until recently. And I don't know if it's the appropriate response to the world we're in, or it's just the response I'm having, but I'm choosing not to judge it, and I'm choosing to believe that what I learn from it is going to be of value to other people, and if not to other people, at least to myself, as I kind of live this journey. So I know that's kind of long and all windy. And as I said to folks before, when I do these videos, it's more like a stream of consciousness and a way of me also kind of bearing witness to what's alive for me in the present moment. And I don't have for so much of my life, I wrote literally just write out everything before I say it, and be like super organized, almost like a way, I guess, of having control, you know? And I would only talk about things that I had thought out deeply, had read about deeply, had studied. And so that's just how I showed up in the world. I even used to write out conversations before I had them with people, until my brother joked me about it. But I used to write out things I would say, things I thought the other people would say, and everything like that. And he would say, like, "How do you know what the other person's gonna say? Like, how do you write out what the other person's gonna say? That's stupid." So eventually I stopped doing that. But I definitely um, would make sure that I had thought out everything before I said it, because I never wanted things to come back that if I wasn't prepared for what I was gonna say. So me doing these videos is like a kind of vulnerable thing, in the sense that I don't even have notes. Like I used to take, even if I made a video, I would also have notes and just kind of look at my notes when I was talking. But now I'm just saying whatever is alive for me in the moment. And then later I might go more deeply into it, writing it or refining it. But that's where I'm on right now. The journey I'm on right now is a journey of discovery, a journey of remembering, a journey back to the childhood self. One of the teachings that Jesus has, like, you can't enter the consciousness of heaven um, unless you do so as a child. And I am trying to get back to that childlike wonder about things and cultivating that a lot more. and doing a little play. Like I got a little kid, not a kid, 8. Last night we made a time machine, a story about time machine pigs, and I used this pig and a couple other pigs, like a seal that who he was actually formerly a pig, and then his brain got transplanted into a seal because of an accident. So he's a seal pig. Like I just doing play with my kids and stuff like that, just trying to get back to that, cultivating that innocence and trying to like, just get to that mindset because, like, I mean, when we look at the world, it's a mess, man. It's a mess, and it's a mess in my mind because we've lost that connection to our innocence, and we've lost that connection to wonder, and so many of us are just trying to figure out how to survive. And my daughter always says, like, well, I don't have to think about any of that stuff because I'm a little kid, and I think, well, what would it be like to look at this stuff as a little kid? And sometimes I ask her questions about the world because I'm curious of how she sees it from that point of view. Because in the grand scheme of things, she's walking equanimity as it is. And even though she, I watch her go through her emotions and stuff like that, and she doesn't judge them. She just has them. And then when she's done with them, she's done with them. And so I'm like trying to imitate that to some degree, but not in a like pretentious way, but just in a like, um, when I find my feelings arising and stuff, I'm giving myself, I guess, the space I never had as a child to feel what I feel non-judgmentally and be in wonder about it, and then navigate it with consciousness and hopefully some wisdom. And then, I don't know, put it out here for some folks, um, or just put it out here just to put it out here. But at any rate, I appreciate you, Linda, and T Ray, and Drew for being here, and at least one other person who I can't see. Um, but I appreciate y'all being here, and anyone else who comes across this. I'm really just trying to um, just live. Uh, I don't even like the word authentic anymore because it seems like people just use the word authentic just to be using the word authentic. I'm just being, I'm just being. And thanks, T. Yeah, I'm just trying to be present, with what is, and just live the life of love and wonder and beauty and all the things that we have an opportunity to do. And I know that, like, when I was a little kid, I actually told myself this. Sorry, y'all. Um, like, because of the experiences I was having, I was just like, yo, does the world need another like stressed out crazy person? I don't feel like it does. And so I chose not to live that way for like more time of my life than most adults. And unfortunately, because of it, a lot of people I think were trying to wake me up to make me an adult, and they thought the way to do that was the like be terrible. And I tried to like do the Jesus thing and forgive them for they know not what they do and all that stuff. And then I realized like a lot of them do know what they're doing, um, because they're just trying to get theirs. And I had to reconcile that, um, and decide like how do I want to live, even in the face of that, even in the face of some people just are going to be terrible. And I had to figure out how do I deal with that and not just think like they don't know what they're doing, but maybe they do know what they're doing, and I still have to navigate that too. But I don't know. It's a journey. I'm trying to learn from it. I'm trying to be mindful. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to share. And I gotta go because my little kid is now walking in on me and is basically telling me, "You telling me it's time to get off?" Yeah, and that you're slow. She's telling me it's time for me to get off this video, and then I'm slow because I told her I was gonna make a video, and she told me to be quick, but I guess I'm taking too long. But anyway, looks like she's coming up here. I don't know if she's coming to peep up here and be. No, yeah, yes, she. Does she look just like me? It's ridiculous. Not just like me, but a lot like me. She like a lot like. She looks like my mom. She looks like my mom with. Yeah. Anyway, look at her head. You make my head look gigantic, man. And the weird part is I have a big head. You do, so that makes my head even bigger. Anyway, so thanks for being here. This is us. We don't know what we're doing, but she said, "Hi, sweetie, what a cutie." T said that. I don't know who that is. Yeah, T watches some of my videos. But who's T? I don't know T's real name. I just see T-Ree up here. It may be somebody I know, but they go by T-Ree, so I just call them T-Ree because that's what they go by. But at any rate, say what? Oh, T-Ree. Oh, T-Ree says I'm a grandma. So she wanted to know your real name, but you don't have to put your real name out here if you don't want to. Some people don't like doing that.
Oh.
Okay. But at any rate, thanks for being here. I guess this is a bonus scene with my little mini me, little head that makes my head look gigantic. And but I was telling them that you're how I connect with my innocence. And I also told them about our pig story that we did yesterday.
Wait.
The other pigs right here. This is our three little pigs that can travel through time, but one of them a seal pig because his brain got replaced into a seal. She said, "My name is Grammy T." That's awesome.
Hi.
She said, "Okay." Well, anyway, I didn't know that was gonna happen, but that's a bonus. I appreciate y'all. Pray for my eyeball. It's feeling pretty good though. I can see through it clearly again, and it stopped bleeding, and it's just a little crusty. But yeah. Anyway, thanks. This is a weird journey, and I guess I'll see y'all on the next video. And until then, don't judge yourself. Be in wonder about yourself. Be curious about yourself. Give yourself what you deserve, even if no one else ever gave it to you. And then once you allow yourself to receive what you deserve and you love yourself, then maybe we can project more love into the world and create something that's better for more people. And not all this craziness, because we have the resources, we have everything we need for everyone to have an amazing life. We absolutely do. And we just have to build the will and build the capacity. And it starts with building our love capacity. And I know for sure that we have infinite capacity to love, but we just have to put it into practice. So I love y'all. Thanks for being here. And I'll see y'all in the next video.
Bye.
And
Bye.
I guess the three little pigs from the future want to say bye. Thanks.